Hey, folks, welcome to the latest edition of Cruising with the Coaches, conversation with Julie and Lee. We are here, your two favorite hosts with your favorite show. And if it's not your favorite show, it should be. So, Julie, how you doing? How are you?
Good.
What's
How are
going
you?
on? I'm
Just
good. I have an update for you
okay. Yes, your
on
loofah?
on
Is it your loofah?
yes, I have an update
Ah,
on my whole loofah transformation. So, folks, by the way, a note to anyone using it, you gotta refresh them, right? Meaning, like, you gotta get new ones, okay? You can't just use the same one over and over. So here's the dopest thing I found now. It's a half loofah, half scrubber. Like not a brush, but like
A
the different.
sponge?
Yeah, right. So it's a little bit. It helps the exfoliation a little bit more, little bit harder. So the one side is the softer loofah part. The other side is like the scrubber part. And I was like, that's dope. I can get down with that. So I'm just saying, I'm taking you guys on my evolution of what do we call this? Cleanliness? No,
I
it's your journey. I don't know.
because I remember the last time I told you I was like, you've showered before, right? And and all this. And
Yeah.
so we don't want to scare people away, but skincare and all of that, like for real, loofah is where has this been all my life? You know what I mean? Oh my god. Anyhow, like that's not what the show is about today. But also I do want to. I know this is not show related, but remember when I had sent you the picture of me riding home?
Yes.
Yo, I'm not even joking. Like, okay, so I
Uh,
sent you the gif with like all the rats running. Like it wasn't that many, but I almost ran over two. I promise.
Oh god.
And they're big enough to look like squirrels without the fluffy tail, or they're bigger than squirrels actually. So
Yeah.
like and like it's the alley's a full block, but we're probably a third way down from the alley, right from the entrance in the street. So again, it's at night and I got lights on and everything, and there's typically nothing back there, people, anything. So I'm riding, and I'm like, damn, I see one flash by. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm getting closer to my gate and another one. And I was like, what the? Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Ugh.
yeah, that's folks. If you're riding your bikes and if you're in the city like I am, the worst thing is not the traffic, it's not the buses, it's not the people on the scooters, it's rats. So just
So I'm just glad I was asleep and I didn't see it till the next day because I probably would have had a dream. I was like, "Ooh, what is this?"
uh yeah, it was yeah, no bueno, no bueno.
Lord.
So anyhow, why don't we go ahead and get into our topic for this show?
Okay.
What we are bringing to you folks, make sure I got the right one here. And no, we are not talking about the book that is of the same title. This is, I use the title because what we're talking about is the understanding of intimacy between men and women. And I thought the title was kind of pretty appropriate
Mhm.
since, you know, um, it kind of states that people don't understand each other. So
Right.
let's dive in. And I want to make the note here too that this article from Psychology Today, it was talking about heterosexual couples. All right. So
Correct.
that's what it was talking about. Um, and here we are, what men and women don't understand about each other, right?
Mhm.
Excuse me. So, it states that couples assume that their partner thinks the same way that they do.
Right.
And if they don't, leads to conflict. All right. Um, Here it says that women don't understand that men sometimes can be frightened of them. We'll touch on that in a bit. And men don't understand that women, much of what they do is trying to get closer. Okay.
Right.
Um, so before we dive into some of the misunderstandings, any thoughts on the topic as of yet? Anything you want to any insights you can shed some light on before we dive in?
Of course, I'm gonna say I think we're all simple creatures. I mean, some of us can be complicated, but
Sure.
I don't think it's really gender related. I think
Mm,
it
mhm.
can be. I think it can be. But I
Okay.
think there's also, you'll find that there are probably more females who are more, um, I don't know. I just say I've ran into a lot of sensitive men as of lately. And I'll just leave it there. Okay. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say.
Well, they're probably afraid of you, but we'll touch on that. We'll get into that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
Not
joking.
afraid. But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
do find that the whole going into the mentality that someone just because they're male they're this, or just because they're female they're this, like I
Right.
don't think that applies as much as as a person who's, you know I'm back out there. It's different. It is so different, and it's just kind
I can only imagine. I can
of like,
only.
oh, dude, the
So
struggle is
so
real.
part of it, I think too, part of it, I think, is, and this is what the article touches on, and like you said, it's not really gender related, although for the
For the
show purposes,
content
it
purposes, yeah.
is, right. But I think it's also like societal driven, meaning these roles that we were taught, you
Mhm,
know? And
mhm.
obviously things have changed and roles are much more fluid and blended, but I think it comes from those kind of thoughts too, right? Like
Yes.
a man is this and a woman is this, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm.
So um I'll go ahead and put the slides up and we'll get to it. So
Okay.
this article talked about the issues that heterosexual couples have, and a lot of people think it stems from the differences, right? And so, um, as a result, and I found this interesting. Um, Men and women are assuming, or men assume that women are like them, and women assume that men are like them, right? That we all think the same thing, and we have the same nuances that we're thinking about, and that's not correct. Farthest thing from the truth. Now, this is what I found truly interesting, especially from a coaching perspective, right?
Mhm,
Is that a lot of times what we try to do in communication, we bridge this gap, right? And so we try to mirror each other, how we're talking, or maybe different mannerisms, right? That kind of thing. Because what we've learned is if you mirror somebody, that might be more relatable, right? But here they point out that that can lead to frustration because it may come across as superficial and doesn't really get under the surface of the deeper misunderstandings or deeper miscommunication.
right.
Um, so that's that was really interesting to me. Again, like I said, from a coaching perspective, one of the things that we learn and how to build rapport, and not just as coaches, but as people who communicate well, right?
Right.
You do kind of mirror someone's like their syntax, the way they speak. You
Mhm,
try to mimic it and mirror their voice level, right? If they are high energy or if they're kind of laid back, you mirror those things when you're trying to get to know them and build a rapport so that you can then start building trust,
mm,
right? So I found it interesting that that can possibly lead to frustration if you're trying to mirror, your husband or your wife in communicating. I was like, wow, I'm not sure. I would think that would help bring the wall down a little bit. But what are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I would find it to be annoying.
And there we go, folks. Men and women are wired differently. That's it. That's it. End of
Because
show. We're done. No,
no, because I mean,
yeah,
ultimately, if I wanted to be with myself, I would be with myself. So, like, if you're going to mirror me, then
right.
there's no real point. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's just kind of like, no, I want you to have your own way, your own opinion, your own demeanor. Like, I mean,
Sure.
again, if you're going to just mimic everything I'm doing, I could pretty much just be by myself. Thank you very much.
I would think, "Oh, no, she said it's annoying. Oh, show over. We're done."
But I
But
mean, I can understand it though. So, like in a disputive type of situation where you're
mhm,
like, you know, when they are,
when you're trying
just
to de-escalate the
de-escalate the situation,
absolute
then that's different.
mhm,
That's
mhm.
different. But like obviously, you don't want to mimic when you're when you're trying to elevate the situation either, too. So,
Facts,
like,
facts.
I don't know. I know, yeah.
Well, I can tell you from even from experience, right? I remember I would consider myself the good communicator, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I think so. And early on in our relationship, my wife and I, like, I can also be very animated.
Mhm.
And if I'm angry about something, I'm not saying I have a temper, but okay, like things can get elevated, right? And
Right.
voice gets louder, that kind of thing. And so I remember trying to bring that down or trying to okay, if I'm angry about something and I gotta bring it up right then and there,
Right.
but not in an attacking or an aggressive way. I don't know if it ever really worked. But trying to, change it enough so that she could hear what I was really trying to say instead of the action or
Right.
the animated part,
Right.
and talk with my hands, those kind
I
of
was
things.
just gonna say that, and understanding with the talking of the hands, because there's some people
Yeah,
who that's super intimidating to, and it's just kind of like,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
I'm not Italian, but I'll tell you, I talk with my hands. Like I'm sitting here like holding my hands together, and I find that when I meet new people, I hold my hands because
So
I
that you
know,
don't right, it could be
yes,
intimidating. So I I
yes,
I can see that where, changing it up or trying to do something that not necessarily mirroring, but, like we said, de-escalating where it comes across as superficial. It
right,
doesn't come across as authentic, right?
right,
So
right,
so I get that. I get that.
yeah.
So going back here, let's go to the next one here. So what the article then keeps talking about is one of the most important things that women can do to understand about men is that sometimes they may be scared of women in intimate relationships. All right. And then also, one of the most important things that men don't understand about women is that in the things that women do, or generally speaking, things that women do in a relationship reflects their efforts on trying to get closer and feel more connected.
Hmm.
So that's the hard part we were talking about with the feeling intimidated or scared or afraid, right? Now, I'm gonna tell on all the men here. I'm gonna tell on them, tell on them.
Okay.
I would say if I gathered 10 men, 9 of them are gonna tell you, "I ain't afraid. I'm not afraid," right? Now, here's something that we've kind of been conditioned with, right? 'Cause, I swear, if I've heard this 1,000 times and had a dime for it, man, happy wife, happy life, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
Which, to a degree, okay, that's fine. But it doesn't sound the same if you say happy husband, happy life, right? Like it doesn't even rhyme. But if we're conditioned to, well, if your wife is happy, then you're going to have a happy life. Well, then what about my happiness? Right. So that means I'm supposed to take care of her happiness. And if she's unhappy, then I need to jump into action. That's a condition. I'm not saying it's true.
Yeah, it is a condition. It's a condition to think that, you're responsible for someone else's happiness, which is nobody's responsibility for that. But I want to take it one step further.
Sure.
Again, I'm still fighting the whole gender thing because I still don't believe it's a male thing or a female thing. But in
Sure.
this case, it can be simply because do you know what men are afraid of or what makes a woman intimidating?
Ooh, I mean, if you're are you asking me or do you have an answer to that?
I have an
I
answer, but do you know what it is? Do
I
you
don't
have
know what it is
okay,
because I've never been intimidated by so so I
okay,
don't know, but I have thoughts and I've talked to other men about it.
okay.
Um, but I'm
And
interested to hear
what is their answer? Do they what
well, what some of it's been money,
okay,
some of it's been um a job, right?
okay,
Or education. Those things intimidate men to where they won't approach that woman because they feel like they're not enough.
okay. And
But those might be different to your answer.
when it comes to
Mhm,
education and, money, all
sure.
that stuff,
Mhm.
what goes behind it?
You got me on that one.
Planning. Planning.
Ooh.
Women plan, men do not. So, and I'm not going to
Mm.
say every man, I'm going to
No, no,
say
we're
a large
generalizing here.
percentage of
Yeah,
men. Yes.
sure,
So,
sure.
when a woman becomes intimidating, it's because she has a plan.
Mm.
And a man is intimidated by a person who has a plan if he himself does not
Does
have a
not
plan.
have a plan.
If he is winging it, that
Mm,
is where the piece of intimidation comes into play.
sure.
So, owning the fact that I am intimidated because you always have an answer where I
Mm,
don't always have an answer, therefore it's intimidating.
mm.
Then figure out a plan, dude. Get, like, have a
Yo,
plan.
that's no, but that is a really good, that is great
That's the
insight
dynamic. That is the dynamic.
is the planning.
Seriously. Yeah.
Because so I take myself again, but I'm also thinking of all the men that I've talked to, whether it's been coaching, friends, whatever. And I think part of the reason I've never been intimidated is because and I may not have had the full plan, right?
Okay. Right.
But I've always had a plan.
Right.
Now
Right.
that plan, dips and dodges and ducks, so it's a roller coaster, but it's still a plan, right?
Right. Right.
So, to that point, I can see that where
Right.
okay, I have the next step, so I'm gonna approach her, and that's all I've got. I don't know where it goes from this, but what happened? And so the woman might be like, "Yo, that's dope. Okay, he approached me. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what?" And he's like,
Exactly.
I don't know."
I don't know.
And so it's like, boy, bye, because
Yeah.
yo, at least give me like 3 steps, not the
But
whole
not
thing.
necessarily, because then there are those folks who are complete and total planners and they enjoy the break of having someone who doesn't have a plan and it's
That's fair.
just kind of helping
That's
them break out of that ABCD thing, and it's just kind
that
of
is
like
fair.
I don't know. I think the intimidation it's a huge factor
But,
and
that's a great insight, man. I've never heard that part, right? That folks, this is real-time processing. That's why we do the show. That's why, right there. Because again, like I've heard the surface stuff, right?
right,
Money, job, all of that. But yeah, what like you said, what goes behind it, I was like, huh, I don't know. With but the
right.
plan, that's really good insight for sure.
And then the other piece too to that planning piece is the fact
Mhm,
that if they are a planner, if the woman is a planner, like
mhm.
being afraid of being that next plan, like
Ooh,
not being ready for what
yeah,
they believe is
is
quote
the next
unquote
step in
the
that.
next step in her
Mhm,
plan. And
mhm.
it's not necessarily you might not be in the plan. I'm just you know what I mean? It's
Right, right, right. But
yes.
then what do you do if you're not, right? And the well, like I said, I'm gonna tell on men some more. Men have a hard time, admitting fear.
Mhm.
Admitting fear, right? Being afraid is okay. I will tell you, I'm not afraid of any person, but having fear for things for a reason is good. Like if you have fear for your children and their
Mhm.
safety, right? Yes,
Right.
it's okay even as a man to say, "I'm afraid when my daughter walks out the door." Okay, that's a natural thing.
Right.
Or digging deeper and well, I won't spoil it, but we'll get into some of these after the break, right? But saying what you're afraid of in a relationship,
Mhm.
like that's okay to do because that's what ties to the other piece of what this article talks about and what we're talking about on the show.
Right.
The things that women try to do in a relationship are to connect and get closer. And so if you can acknowledge and admit, I'm afraid that I'm not enough for you. You might be, and she might be like, damn, that's cool. Let's work on that. So, because we're together, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but men have a hard time doing that. So, on that note, when we take a break, let everybody kind of digest that. And when we come back, we'll get into the pieces of some of the things that the article talks about what men are afraid of. All right, folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back from the break. Man, dropping bombshells, y'all. This is what we do on Cruising with the Coaches, a conversation with Julian Lee. But today we are talking about this show is about the misunderstandings and intimacy, excuse me, between men and women. And we're going to dive into what the article talked about some things that men are afraid of. But um, before we get to that, I just want to share this again from my own life. In the break, we were talking about how my wife makes more than me. Okay. And to a lot of guys, that would be emasculating or intimidating,
Right.
scary, all the above, right? What it did for me, especially when we first started dating and then when this was moving to marriage, what it made me do was up my game financially.
Okay.
Like in the segment before you talked about a plan, right?
Right. Right.
Well, I'll be the first to tell you, I was kind of winging it financially, right? I, I was
Mm.
not living quite paycheck to paycheck, but I was winging it. Like,
Okay.
okay, 401k, that was about as much as I planned. Okay.
Okay.
My wife is an accountant. Now, in all fairness, she is
Got that 50/30/20 rule. That's what she got.
yeah, I mean, right? So for someone who's winging it to then be in a relationship with an accountant,
Mhm.
that's yo. So we had some difficult conversations early on
Mhm.
um, about my financial status. And like
Okay.
that's just true. But again, it was not intimidating. It wasn't didn't make me fearful. It made me make a choice.
Right.
It's like either excuse my French, but you either shit or get off the pot. So
Right.
you either step up and level. Now again, it's not about making the same amount of money, but it's about how you think about finances.
But
That's
again, you
really what
just said it's about the discussion too, because if
correct.
you, let's say you decided you didn't, and I don't want to say step up because that's it
Well,
maybe
that
you
was my term,
decide,
but
yeah,
yeah,
no, but
yeah,
maybe you decide that that's not where you see yourself, like you
right,
would never be in that position. Then
right,
you have that conversation that says, you know what, I'm going to be the stay-at-home dad, and I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with
right,
that.
right,
That's a conversation that the two of you have, and you decide that. But again,
exactly,
it comes back to having the dialogue. You can't sit there and say
and assume that you know what the other person's thinking.
exactly, or in fear, just
Right,
destroy the relationship completely because I'm never going to live up to her standards, kind of a situation.
and that's
So
a
no,
great segue
yeah,
into what the article talked about, because let me bring the slides back up. So this was as you heard us just talk about this fear, right, of men and intimidation that they can have for intimacy with women. It's counterintuitive to think that. So what are men afraid of, right? What are they afraid of? So the article points out a few examples. One of them is men are afraid of being dominated and controlled by women. So they may accuse each other of being controlled by a woman. That's just funny. There's other terms that it's called, not being controlled, but yeah. And and some might actually have a need to be controlled by a woman, right?
right, right.
So I got to come out and talk about this real quick before we go on to the other examples. Um, what do the kids call it these days? Simping? Is that what it's called?
Oh,
Being a simp?
Lord, Lord.
But yes, so
They don't
men
even
are
know what the definition.
no, they don't. They're not even they're clueless.
Yeah, I'm
Clueless.
like, that is not simple. What?
They just want to have their own language, but
Right, right.
but men are interesting because they will definitely, this locker room talk, right?
Mhm.
They'll make fun of each other for, oh, well, you got to call your wife and you got to do this and you got to do that. Well, no, I'm calling my wife out of consideration because, yo, we're about to go do this, this, and this. You cool with
Correct.
that? I'm not
Yes.
getting permission,
No.
but like that's consideration in a relationship.
Right.
But men will do that. And it has me thinking now that men who project that are actually being controlled. And they have this fear of I'm never going to be my own person, and they don't know how to actually um be equal in the relationship. You know what I mean? So it
Okay.
goes back and forth with this conflict, and that's why they tease other men because they feel like they have to do that same thing. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It
It
does. It does.
yeah, just occurred to me again, this whole locker room talk and guys are crazy. So I
I mean,
mean, women are too, but no, I'm just
but the other side of that token too is sometimes, they're just projecting what they really would want in their life and is for
very
someone to
true.
be checking in with them,
Yep.
And so it's a toss, it's either something they're missing or
Mhm.
something they're doing too.
Well, you're right because that's one of the other examples from the article, right? Um, well, that's probably the third example, but this one is that men are also afraid of being inadequate emotionally, interpersonally, or even sexually, right? So I found this interesting that, stereotypically men are considered self-centered lovers, but this survey that and they didn't say how many men took the survey, but it comes up with that the most important thing is pleasing their partner. So
Okay.
that's like kind of counterintuitive. How can you be a self-centered lover if your main goal is to please your partner? That's not self-centered, you know? Um, but also, pleasing your partner is an expression of generosity, and it's an indication of a man's need to be validated. So they used the saying, women have to feel loved to have sex, and men need to have sex to feel loved. So um,
Which is what I
anything.
was just gonna say, because like that the self-centered piece
Mhm.
is
don't, don't tell on anybody.
oh, I'll say this nicely. No, I'm not telling on anybody.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like just like what it was just said, it's
Mhm,
the thought of the act being completed
mhm.
means it is done.
Mm.
Now, what
Good
if
way to put that. Very, very, very G rated. Good job. Good job.
the act being completed does not make it done if one of the parties is not satisfied? So
True.
there
Very true.
that's the self-centered piece is
Very true.
okay, I'm good. Oh,
But
mm,
but
ah,
so so I wonder like how many people who filled out this survey that they gave, right? And if the most important thing is to satisfy your partner, your lover, then obviously those are the guys, or maybe they haven't made the connect between,
correct.
oh, there's more.
There's more. I
Yeah,
promise. There's
yeah.
more. And then the other piece to that too is we as women understanding it's really not favorable to fake it for your partner. It really isn't.
Because
So if
that, let's be real, that does no one any good, right?
nobody, nobody,
Because if you're faking it, you're not gonna be happy,
right?
but you get your partner thinking, "Well done, good job."
Yes, yes.
And then but the resentment, I can only
It
imagine, just
builds. It
builds, right?
builds. Yes.
And
I mean,
so
if you want to fake it, that's fine, but don't talk about it. Don't nobody want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that your man is not
Mm,
satisfying you. That's not
no,
cool. That's not
no.
cool.
Well
So
well, if you're gonna talk about it, at least tell your man first before you tell your friends, and
back to the one person who it probably really matters to.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 At least clue him in first, and
Yeah.
then feel free to share it with whoever you want.
Yes. I mean, maybe.
Side note, we've done mm, that's a rabbit hole we're not going
Yeah,
down,
we're gonna.
but we've done shows on social media.
Yes.
So, let's just put a disclaimer out here. Don't talk about your dissatisfaction on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and all the other stuff before you've talked to the partner, please. Like,
Right.
I mean, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. You're gonna hit send. Just this disclaimer from Julie and Lee, okay? Like,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
don't hit send. All right, here's the third example that the article talked about. Um, so, and this was going towards the point that you were making earlier.
Mhm.
Men are afraid of being abandoned, and so physiologically, they become more distressed with conflict in relationships. So, also, it takes them longer to recover, and they may even like sabotage the relationship because they can't recover and they think they're going to be abandoned, and so they'd rather sabotage it than anything, like causing the breakup or whatever it is. um yeah, it's crazy, it's nuts, but it feels like it's counterintuitive, but it kind of makes sense. If you're feeling like you're going to be abandoned, you want to be the one to make the first move, right? Oh, you're not leaving me, I'm gonna leave you,
I'm like you. Right.
as opposed to, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm gonna do if we're not together. What am I, opening up, saying, I know I got some flaws and I'm
Right.
scared, and if you leave me, what am I gonna do? Right?
Right.
That's
Right.
that's the real part that we're not taught, I won't say we're not taught to do it. A lot of times that what I've seen is we're not equipped to do it.
Okay.
We're not equipped to do it. I see people wanting to, and I'll don't want to say people, I'll go back to men, right? I have coached plenty of men who have wanted so badly to be authentic and say these things.
Okay.
right? Talk about their fears. But because of everything we've just mentioned, that, oh, you're supposed to be strong and you're supposed to be this and you're not supposed to feel your emotions and all of that, they don't. I recall one coaching session. It was a group coaching session, super powerful, because I gave these husbands permission to speak to their wives of what they needed
Okay.
in order to feel like they could become better husbands, you know?
Right.
And they had never said these things before to their wives, but they
Okay.
did in this session. I tell you, like, there was so many tears in that session. It was amazing, you know?
Right.
So I've seen it where men want to do it, but they're not equipped, you know?
And why is that?
I don't know.
Okay.
If I had the answer, I'd can it and, I it's one of the reasons I created an online course. I'm not promoting it here, but the need for men to be equipped to be okay with talking about their emotions and feelings.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why I created it, you know?
So I would be interested into finding out of those men what
Mhm.
their relationships were with their parents. Was
Mm,
dad in the house? Was dad not in the house? Was mom, like what was the dynamic
that's
of mom and dad?
that's one thing that we addressed through the coaching.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of times, I'll admit it's been broken homes, right?
Mhm.
But
Okay.
and not broken as in mom and dad were, well, they had both there, but the example of the
The
relationship was transactional at
Yeah,
best,
the
right?
communication was broken.
Mhm,
I get it. I
absolutely.
get it. Okay.
So that's what I've seen. Um, and again, everyone has their own trauma that they got to deal with from
Sure.
whatever you came up with. But if you don't address it in some kind of positive way or through therapy, whatever it is, it affects how you act as an adult.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
So, I mean, and not to plug Disney, okay? But,
What
you know,
the Inside Out too? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, seriously. I mean, so like Inside Out, first,
Yeah.
it's not one you have to see the first one to understand the second one, but you kind of gotta, you know,
What you gotta do for the evolution. Yes. Yes.
yes. So you
Yeah.
gotta understand what it is, what your core, like what are those core
Mhm.
memories that make you who you are, and
Yeah.
understanding them, and not everybody's willing to do
To
that
take
dive.
that deep dive.
Yeah, and
Because
so
you feel like you might not come back up for air sometimes.
yes, yes. I mean, like I can't even lie. I was watching. So funny. I was watching it, and actually afterwards I had also watched that If the oh If is Imaginary Friends.
Oh, okay.
With
Oh,
the
oh,
people.
oh,
Yes.
oh.
So, oh,
Wow.
dude, I was all in my subconscious.
That's
Just so we're clear.
that's a day. That's a
I was
day.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's been a week. It's been a week. So, just even in watching that, it was one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I had never thought about it that way. But like
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
me, my first love was not my father. I didn't know my father. Okay. My first love was, and it's so funny because I don't even know that he knows this, but it's my uncle because my mom would regularly show a photograph of him in his Marine uniform. Okay. And so she would show me. So, like, when I would see him, I knew who he was because of the photograph. But
Sure.
I had also conditioned myself to understand this is someone who comes around periodically, isn't always here. And,
Mhm.
but, when he was around, I gave him, 100%. But then
Mhm.
realizing he's going to go away again. And so now I understand, oh, that's why I keep people at an arm's length. You know what I mean? But it's
Because
like,
because I'm thinking they're gonna go away again. I don't know how long they're gonna be
it's,
here for.
and there's the abandonment issue, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of like
Mhm.
I'm actually more of the opposite as far as I'm getting too damn good at being alone. Like seriously, and I am
Well,
so okay with it. And so I'm like
mhm, mhm,
acknowledging that, you know what?
yeah.
I gotta make some moves and some changes and understand why I do that. And like
Mhm.
it was epiphany. I'm sitting there going, what the heck? That's why I'm okay with it. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But
Well, and see, and then you get to choose, do I still want to be okay with being that way?
right,
Or
right,
if I want to let people in,
right.
okay, how do I work on that? Right?
Yeah,
That's the beauty of what you get to choose. You
exactly.
don't, it's no one gets to tell you how to do it.
Right.
So, well, unless it's me, I get to tell you how to do it because we're on the show. But no, I'm kidding. So the article ends up wrapping up, excuse me, with it comes away with some things that in the relationships it talks about, and we touched on this, right? If
Mhm,
women are dissatisfied with the level of intimacy, a lot of times they'll say things or try to do something like let's get closer or we should do something together, right? And
right.
that's good because they're making the attempt. But what it does is it triggers something in men, um, because again, societally, we've been taught that we're responsible for their happiness. And
Mhm,
so if they're not happy, oh my gosh, this is a criticism, or I'm not the man I'm supposed to be. I'm
right.
inadequate, whatever it is. Now, what I mentioned before about men wanting to talk about this, well, men tend to withdraw instead of talking about it, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Because also we're taught, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to talk about this because I'm supposed to be strong. Being strong means you don't talk about it, right?
mhm.
So then that then breeds this misinterpretation. Women take the withdrawal as evidence they don't want to be close. And so then the woman pursues it harder and more because, well, okay, if I go at this, I see him pulling back, so I'm gonna go forward. He's gonna pull back, I'm gonna go forward. And it becomes this cycle that both of them are frustrated and just haven't reached each other on that level, right?
Mhm. Right.
So I can see that. That's where the article was talking about. Um, and as we've said too, it's about communication. It's about as I'd like to one of the mantras I use is do it afraid, right? But it came from doing triathlon because swimming in open water is scary, right?
Oh, facts. Yeah.
But you got to swim in order to get to the bike and the run, and you might be afraid. But if you do things afraid, 9 times out of 10 you find that it's not as bad as you made it up to be, right?
Right.
um So then the article goes on to talk about how men and women can actually work on this, right?
Yes.
So couples can break the pattern by, and we talked about the deep dive, but getting a little bit deeper into understanding each other, right? Understanding what the man needs, understanding what the women needs. So for women, it suggested understanding that the man is not withdrawing because of a lack of interest, but out of this fear that it's going to be wrong, whatever he says. And if he's wrong, then the relationship shifts and potentially in the bad way. So that's what they're suggesting for women. Understanding of the withdrawal is not bad. And then for men, they are suggesting resist the temptation to withdraw and learn how to hang in there, um, and talk things through. And instead of using withdrawal as a defense mechanism, and this is a hard one, guys. This is a hard one. Use the conflict as an opportunity to connect.
Mm.
So I got to come out on camera here because I know people are like, the hell are you talking about? So we're not saying like in the middle of an argument is an opportunity to be like, oh, hey, let's connect. It could be. I don't know. It could be, depending on how people argue. But instead of focusing on, okay, something's not right, she's not happy, must mean I'm doing something wrong, lean into that. and ask specifically, okay, what is it? Because you may not be aware of it, right?
Right.
But hang in there and do that because that opens up the line of communication for and you may be frustrated with, oh, well, you didn't take the trash out, but that's not the real reason. The real reason becomes, well, after you took the trash out, then you watch TV or something and you didn't take the time to connect. That's you might get to the bottom of it.
That's not the argument with the trash. The argument with the
No,
trash
it's
is
not.
Monday is the same Monday every week. Can you explain to me why I have to remind you that it's Monday? It is a personal attack when you do not take the trash out because you are telling me you do not care about me. That's
I
what
was
that
trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice.
Let's just be honest.
But if you ask that, then you can get to that, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm
Yes.
tired of reminding you, and I'm not your mother. Why do I have to remind you?
Right.
You're not my
Right.
son. Like, you get
But
to
in
that.
a but in a man's defense, though, when you do open up that can of worms and you do express, okay, it is not the fact that you have not taken out the trash. It's the fact that you know you're supposed to take out the trash and you're waiting for me to take it out and blah 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 blah. And then you do it again. Do you see what that's the opening of
The
the can of
the
worms.
repeat
Yes.
offender is no
Yes.
bueno. No
N-
bueno.
No
Yeah.
bueno. No bueno. No. No.
Yeah. But I like the fact that they're telling men and women, like, be open to the opportunity to listen to the other person. You know,
Yes. Yes.
that's really what it is. You have to be open to listen to that. And open means not waiting till they're done speaking to speak your part, like listening to what they have to say and being present while they're saying it so that you really hear them, you know?
Right. Yes. And
Yeah.
and I would like to make the suggestion that if you have children, if you're a couple who has children, it is so important. And I know this sounds really weird. Date your children. If you are a man, you take your daughter out. If you are a woman, you take your son out. You sit down and you have dialogue with them one on one, and
Mm.
they learn how to speak to the opposite sex in their own way. And therefore, when you move through adulthood and what have you, they are not craving it so bad that when they do meet that person, they're just smothering them.
Oh, that is so critical. Yes.
Yes.
Like you said, they'll be starving for it. So the very next person that shows not attention,
Yep.
just interest,
Interest.
it'll
Then
be this the pouncing,
yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
give your children that undivided attention so that they feel heard and that they're not seeking this person, this
Mhm.
idea of a person.
Mm.
That's the problem.
Mm.
It's the idea of that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, folks, man, hit the rewind, listen to it again. But we appreciate you being with us in this episode and really hopefully you take something away from it because like it's about being present and connecting and communication, whether it's kids, whether it's heterosexual relationships, non-heterosexual relationships, communicate and be open with people.
Yes.
That's the goal. That's the point.
Facts. Yep.
So don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We're on YouTube. Oh wait, I think I have the I think I finally added this.
Okay.
There you go. There you
There
go.
we
We're on YouTube, you
go.
guys. Go ahead, go to YouTube. You can find all of the content there. You can watch us. If you just want to listen to us, that's fine too, because I know this ain't all to look at, but
Right.
it's cool. It's ow,
We like you.
ow, ow, daggers, daggers. But
Oh,
make sure you hit the notifications too, so that every time we put some new content up there, you can see it. Until next time, Lee and Julie signing off.